Hello friends, and welcome to this step-by-step SQL tutorial for data analysis and software development. This tutorial is for absolute beginners. This tutorial is provided by SlideScope. So here is an overview of the SQL course. First, I will give you an introduction to SQL and its applications. Then I will introduce you about RDBMS and tables, that is Relational Database Management System, and tables inside Relational Database Management System. I will guide you in installing MySQL and MSSQL and other tools that will be helpful for running and testing SQL queries. I will give you a complete guidance on how you can create a database, how you can create a table. I will also teach you on writing select distinct, where, and, or, not, order by, insert into, null values, update, delete. So you can see these are the commands that will help us in writing our SQL queries. We will also learn joins, how to create inner join, how to create left join, right join, full join, self join. If you have ever heard about these topics, so it's good, but if you have never heard about these topics, so when we will cover these topics, we will learn everything about them. We will learn the practical queries which will use all these commands, all these functions and keywords that are mentioned here. We will also learn how we can create, drop and backup our database. Suppose you are working for any particular organization and the organization gives you a task of creating a database for any application. So how you can create database, how you can drop database, or how you can take a backup of database, how to create, drop and alter tables in database, what are null and not null, what are the meaning of null and not null data, SQL unique key, primary key, foreign key, how to set up keys on columns on tables. Then we will learn SQL check, SQL default, SQL index, auto increment in SQL, SQL dates, how to deal with dates in SQL, how to deal with time in SQL. Then how can we create SQL views. Then what is SQL injection and how we can prevent SQL injection. I will give you a detailed guidance how you can graphically visualize data in phpMyAdmin. Now I will give you an example of a database, an example of a table, so that you can understand these things, so that you will get a better idea of what we can create using SQL. So this particular web page here is of phpMyAdmin. phpMyAdmin is a web tool which can be used to explore MySQL databases. We will learn about exploring and creating and altering MySQL databases for organizations and web applications and software applications. We will also learn about creating databases on MS SQL Server. So I'm giving you some example of what a database is, what is a data table, and how is data represented inside a data table. So on this left sidebar you are seeing name of databases. So we have created these databases for various purpose, for educational purpose, also for our clients also. And one such database is this Northwinds database. This Northwinds database is provided by Microsoft for learning and educational purpose mainly. And this Northwind database is a sample database of a superstore. Superstore, basically a grocery store from where you can buy various products. So in this database you will see there is an option of tables and there is an option of procedures. So we will learn about creating procedures in SQL. We will also learn about creating these tables. So for example, new is written here and we can click on new, and then we can create a data table. We can give various data types to our columns. So we will learn about this. Here in this database, which is provided for educational purpose, in this database there are these data tables. First data table is categories, then there is customers data table, employees data table, order details, orders, products, shippers and suppliers. So let's take an example of categories here. So you can see in categories there are 9 values here. So from 1 to 9 there are 9 values here. This table is basically a tabular representation. So it is represented in a tabular format. In this table you can see some columns are there. So category ID, category name, description, picture, these are columns of this data table, and these horizontal entries here, which are in rows, are created for new data. So for example, we have 9 categories here. So suppose in a superstore they are selling some goods, and those goods belong to these 9 categories. There can be any number of products, but they belong to these 9 categories. So there can be products of beverages, condiments, confections, produce, seafood, meat, poultry, electronics and other types. This category ID is basically the identification of this category. And in this products section, if you will see a product section, so there are these products like chai, chang, any seeds, syrup, and there are various products like Ikura, Queso, Cabrales. So in this particular table you will see more number of columns. So product ID, product name, supplier ID, category ID, quantity per unit, unit price, and there are more number of columns here. So we can create any number of tables in a database as per our requirement, and in a particular table we can create any number of columns, or we can say we can create a table with any number of columns. These are the attributes of the data. Suppose you have to create a table for, let's say, students. So you will these columns will take place of various attributes like name of student, gender of student, email ID of student, address, parents name, parents details, parents phone number and various other things. But one very important thing in this table is this category ID and supplier ID. You can see we have not written the name of category here, but instead of writing the name of category we have used only category ID here. and information about this category ID is given in another table here. So we have created a table where we have created a category ID, then we have written name and description of that particular category. But in other tables, we are only providing the category ID, and when you will join these two tables, then you will be able to get to which particular category this particular product belongs. Suppose this chai belongs to category ID 1 and category ID 1 is beverages. So this is how you will be able to tell name of the category, and similarly you will be able to tell the name of supplier also, because detail of suppliers is given in this table along with supplier ID. So that's why you can say that there is some relationship between every table, so or some table here. So between table product and suppliers there is a relation, and between table product and categories there is a relation. So and because there is a relation, so there is some intersection between them. So some columns are common between them, and then we can write queries to bring data. And once you have the necessary data, so you can use display chart here. Suppose on x-axis we are taking the product name, and on y-axis let's say we are taking units in stock. You can take anything, you can take two columns also, for example units in price and units in stock, and then you can see that you will see some graph here. So this is not the most correct way of visualizing this data, but again we will see how can we apply all these type of graphs here. I will also give you complete guidance on how you can create a database from scratch by understanding the requirement of the project, how you can create a database from scratch, and how you can create data tables, how we can decide what type of data type should be there in a particular column. You can see some keys are written here. So the key in golden is known as primary key, and this key here is another index. This might be a unique key index or a foreign key index, or it can be anything. So we will also learn how we can create these unique key, foreign key and other indexes. So that's what we were discussing in the overview, that creating a database, creating a table, writing select, select distinct, writing select with where, select with and, or, order by, and various other keywords and functions that are mentioned here. You will learn about SQL unique, SQL primary key, and these various things that are mentioned here. So foreign key, SQL check, SQL default, SQL index, SQL auto increment. So this is an overview here, and I want to show you one more thing. So we have Python pandas here. So we can use SQL with Python pandas for advanced data analysis. So I will also teach you basics of Python pandas also. You will learn basics of Python pandas. So if you know how to fetch data from any particular table using SQL, for example, select unit price from products and limit the record to 25. You can see here in products table there are 77 products here, but we are limiting our records to 25. Don't worry about the query here, don't worry about the syntax here, because I will explain. This is just an overview. I will explain about everything that is mentioned here. What is a host, what is a database, what is a username, what is password, how have we got these credentials here, what is importing pandas, what is importing MySQL connector. But you can get MySQL connector, that means something that will connect Python with MySQL. So we can use Python pandas library along with SQL queries, and if you know how to get data, then you can create graphs also. So Python pandas can be used to create graphs of any type. It can be a bar graph, it can be a line graph, it can be a pie chart, it can be anything. It can be a horizontal bar. For example, if I write bar H, so you will see the graph will now become horizontal. Now we can say 5 and 12.6 inches or units. Now you will see a graph of 5 by 12.6. So here 0, 1, 2, 3 represent the products here. So this is product number 1, 2, 3, 4. They have some unit price here, and that unit price is expressed graphically here. That unit prices are expressed graphically here. So unit price of product, the first product is 18. You can see it is somewhere just below 20, and some products are there with unit price of approximately 100. So this is a very brief overview, you can say, about what we are going to learn in this particular tutorial. In this tutorial I will explain you about creating databases by writing SQL queries. I will also explain you how you can create databases without writing any SQL query, how you can select data. For example, whenever I click on a table, we will also learn how we can export any particular database and install it in some other server. You can see you can export a database in any of these formats which are mentioned here. So you can export a MySQL database as a CSV for MS Excel, JSON, JavaScript object notation, LaTeX, PDF, PHP array, or SQL. How we can import sample databases for educational purpose or for any type of use for analysis. How we can import any SQL database and create tables and create a database from it. So these are the work and these are the things that we are going to learn. So whenever you click a table, so you will see a query is executed here. Select star from table, that means select all records from table. So that's what we have mentioned here. Select, then you can select distinct also, select with where and not. So you will learn everything step by step, and you can see a relationship between data tables here, and from that relation this term RDBMS comes, Relational Database Management System. We have another tool here, SQL Server Management Studio. So we can use SQL Server Management Studio to create MS SQL databases, to create and manage and explore MS SQL databases. So it is powered by Visual Studio and Microsoft, as you can see. I will also teach you how you can install MySQL SQL Server. So this is a login here. You can see the server name as localhost / SQL Express, and in this database here you can see localhost here. In Python pandas also you can see localhost. So we are actually using Jupyter Notebook of Anaconda Navigator here. If you are not familiar about Anaconda Navigator, if you are not familiar about Jupyter Notebook and whatever is mentioned here, or about Python pandas, importing MySQL connector, everything, so I will explain this to you. Now you can connect to MySQL server here. So these are some additional things that we will learn along with the basic SQL queries, that how to create databases on MS SQL, MySQL, and how to write queries, how to write SQL queries to fetch data from these SQL server and from MySQL, because these two databases are used by most of the organizations. MySQL is free and open source, and you can easily import it. You can easily connect MySQL with Python applications, and you can create Python applications also, and you can write your queries to fetch data, and then you can create data frames. And suppose I simply type data here, so you will see, you will get the value of data frame, and you can also create graph here. And in MS SQL you can see there are these databases. So here also I have this Northwind database. Northwind is really helpful for understanding relational databases. In this database also you will see there are tables. So the same tables that are there in MySQL, so the same tables that are there in this MySQL database are there in this table, like products table, categories table, and we can right click on any particular table to select any number of rows here. So for example, by default we can select top 1000 rows. It will run the query for us and it will show you the tabular data, so same data that we were seeing there. So I will explain everything about how we can create a database in MS SQL and how we can write these queries here. So this is the main purpose of this course, and I am giving you an overview. You can see some other applications are also created, like database of a hospital management system, database for a coaching, in which let's see how many tables are there. So it is a sample database. In hospital management system there are department, hospital management. You can create database for a school, you can create database for taking attendance, you can create database for college, hotel management. So I will teach you how you can create database for hotel, college, taking attendance, and doing creating various applications. And mostly the SQL queries that we will learn will be on this Northwind and some similar databases. And this is the overview, and in the next part we will start with what is SQL. I have given you an idea, but again, for you can write it down somewhere, you can remember it. So we will deal with what is SQL, what can SQL do, and things like that. So I will give you an overview of SQL and its applications. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.